Final Destination is the franchise that traumatized an entire generation into avoiding logging trucks and highways, but somehow that didn't make the movies any better. So let's revisit that generational trauma today. Alright, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having an amazing day. I know I am, because today we're going to be doing something a little bit different and something that I've been taking way too long to figure out if it's going to work or not. Because today we're not just going to review one movie, we're going to be reviewing an entire franchise. Groundbreaking, right? Never been done before. But I want to do it this way because I do have some strong opinions on this franchise, and I just figure it's better to do it all in one instead of reviewing each individual movie over the span of like 5 weeks, like 5 uploads, because then you can just have all your hate comments on one video and it'll save you time where you don't have to go from each one of them to comment on how shitty they are and how trash my takes are. Every single one of these movies is based around a person or people who have a vision of a horrible accident where everyone dies, and then they end up saving everybody, and then death circles back later and picks them off one by one using crazy, elaborate, violent Rube Goldberg style killing techniques. There's literally no masked killer or monster, it's just household objects and really bad timing. That's a lie, actually, because there kinda is a monster. Death literally cleans up after himself or herself or themselves, I don't know. Death will clean up after itself after it's killed somebody, and to me, I mean, that I don't know, that makes no sense. I am going to give it a fair shot, and I'm just not going to bash on it the whole time. I mean, yeah, I probably am, because I always do that. So here's everything Final Destination gets right, and the quite a few things that it gets painfully wrong sometimes. Something I do like about this series is that it does have a pretty brilliant core concept that doesn't necessarily need reinvention. Not to mention the movie's like a fucking built-in anxiety machine. It weaponizes ordinary everyday life. There's not a single person that did not watch Final Destination 2 and still tenses up around logging trucks, and it's 2 decades later.
Oh, hello, it's editing me again. I'm really tired because it's the middle of the night and I'm just editing this video. And I was watching the footage back and I realized what my dumbass just said. I just said there's not a single person who watched Final Destination 2 and still gets anxious around a logging truck or something like that. What I meant to say was there's not a single person that watched Final Destination 2 and doesn't still get nervous around a logging truck. Just wanted to correct myself because I know how fucking stupid that looks, and I'm waiting for the comment about it.
There are some genuinely creative and memorable kill scenes in there. This series treats every single kill scene like a little mini action set piece, almost to its own demise at times, which I'll talk about later. Even when characters are thin, which is 99% of the time, the viewer can remember the kills beat for beat, which is a really weird metric for success, but it's still success nonetheless. Honestly, the more I think about it, these movies are really relatable universally. You can't tell me everyone hasn't had a really intrusive thought about freak accidents happening. But this movie took those thoughts and it said, same, let's film it and put it on the big screen. The series has held on for a surprisingly long time as well. Like, I would say the Final Destination 2 highway crash is still discussed like national shared trauma, and oh my god, I'm so sorry, I know that sounded really bad. And I would argue that the plane crash from the first one is one of the greatest plane crash sequences in cinema history. Where things start to fall apart is when you do what I do and overanalyze the movies too much. I don't necessarily know if that's a fault of the films or me, but the formula becomes so predictable by design. Every movie hits the same beat. Vision, a warning, disbelief, and then body count. And then by movie 3, it becomes less about being a film and more of just a checklist for things that a Final Destination movie needs to have. You could write those 4 things that I just listed on a piece of paper, and throughout the hour and a half just be like, yep, there's that one, yeah. Death's plan is always treated like a puzzle until the story needs a twist, and then the rules are allowed to bend. By now, I don't think anyone really knows what skipping somebody does beyond the runtime of the movie. The third act usually runs out of steam. Like, the big front-loaded set piece is always the peak, and then after the big disaster is over, the movies typically struggle to find an ending that isn't just another body and roll credits. And I say that because this series just has such a big reliance on a big surprise shock ending. Like, the surprise final kill was fun the first couple of times, but by the time you get by the time you do it 3 or 4 times, it just starts to feel like a contractually obligated exit. This isn't necessarily as big a problem because for the most part you can overlook it, but if you want to be a little picky, we can talk about the fact that the authorities are aggressively unhelpful. The police respond to detailed predictions of mass fatalities with, weird coincidence, like, what? But the thing is about this series, yes, watching them, especially if you binge watch them, can feel like walking through an endless dark tunnel with no end in sight. But suddenly, you realize there is an end in sight. And at the very end, there's this bright, glowing light that gives you a sparkle of hope. And that bright, glowing light is Final Destination Bloodlines from earlier this year. I'm not gonna lie, I really fucking liked this movie, and it's probably, get your pitchforks and torches ready, 100% my favorite movie in the Final Destination franchise. Yes, I do have the balls to say that I prefer this movie over the original where Devon Sawa makes this face all the time. Or Final Destination 2 with this fucking guy in it for some reason. Final Destination Bloodlines really does work for me, and one of the biggest reasons why is because it's the first one pretty much in the entire series to feel structurally thought out and not just stitched together. It doesn't just jump from set piece to set piece. There's pacing, escalation, actual connective tissue, and a story. Things that probably shouldn't feel revolutionary, but here we are. For the first time in the whole goddamn series, the characters represent people with personalities. They're not just interchangeable panicked faces. They have actual motivations, relationships. And I really think by this point in the franchise, the self-awareness has matured. It's not necessarily winking every 2 minutes, but it understands what franchise it belongs to, which lets it get away with a level of humor, a different type of humor and absurdity that did I say that right? What I'm trying to say is that it can pull off a different form of humor that it never could before, and for me it works really well. It still maintains the stakes while being genuinely funny. Another first for this series is the fact that it's actually tense and not just clever. The moments can land properly because you care about the outcome and what happens to the characters, not necessarily the engineering behind the kill. The absolute biggest thing for me is that it treats the core concept with respect. It reminds you of how good this series could be. It reminds you that it could have narrative weight behind it. So it doesn't fix the franchise for me, but it does show what a brighter, better future version of it could be. So no, I don't hate Final Destination. It just always pisses me off that I don't think it ever lived up to the greatness it could have been. But that's all I'm going to say about Final Destination today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You probably all disagree with me. There's going to be one comment at the very bottom of this video that just says, great video, and the rest are all going to be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm so annoying. I'm so sorry. Alright, I do have to go, but I really hope you guys did enjoy this video. I'll see y'all next Friday. We got another one coming out, and the Friday after that, and the Friday after that. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so because it really helps. I absolutely love making these videos, and the more people that jump on board and share this around and start seeing what we're doing over here, the bigger and better it's going to get. So please subscribe. You can go down below and follow me on my socials where I post updates and other horror news and stuff there. And that's all I got for today. I love you all. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.